What's up, guys? Jason Noble here, and I'm on my way to work right now, but I thought I would talk to you guys for a bit. So, what this video is going to be about, it's going to be about how one should approach a debate or argument online. And really, it should be a debate. It should not be an argument. This is something that many people don't understand. A debate and an argument are different things. Arguments, in my opinion, mean it's two people with differing views and they're not actually looking at the reasoning behind the other person's views, and many times they're actually just arguing emotionally. To where a debate, you actually make points and you actually must look into the other person's views to see if they do have a legitimate point behind any of their stances. So, a little background on this issue. This happened in a Facebook fitness group. I'm not going to say the name of the group because it really doesn't matter. But basically what it was someone asked a question, and the question was, which is better for building muscle mass? Either full body routines or body part splits. And she meant by body part splits, splitting up really specific, like chest day, back day, arm day, leg day, etc., etc. She did not mean something like upper, lower, or push-pull, or even push-pull legs. Now, so, in the comments, I actually gave my opinion. I stated that protein synthesis is peaked for 48 hours after training, and that it is better to train the muscles again more frequently than it is to do a body part split where you're training muscles most likely once a week but for much more volume. And I gave many other reasons as well, and there were a few people, more specifically one person, who just started arguing that splits are better, that they are better. And when asked for reasons, he never really gave any reasons. All he said was different things work for different people, and he then started talking about his clients and saying, show me pictures of your clients. And one, he doesn't know if I'm a personal trainer or not, so that's irrelevant. And my clients it's completely off topic to this conversation because it's not about my clients or his clients. It's about which one is superior for most people. And he basically, his only points to back his stance was, I'm bigger and stronger than you. I've been weight training for 20 years. And here are pictures of my clients that look so aesthetic and beautiful. And my stances were that protein synthesis is peaked for 48 hours after training. So it makes sense to hit them again after 48 hours are up. Or running programs like an upper-lower split or a push-pull split where you are hitting muscles at least 2 to 3 times a week, not just once a week. I also supported this with scientific evidence using a few studies, and I used one of Steve Shaw's, the Bearded Beast of Dulux videos, where he discusses the comparing body part splits and protein synthesis. And frankly, Steve Shaw goes into much, much more detail than what I'm going to go into here of why it's better. I recommend you watch it. Just YouTube search full body versus splits, and it's, I believe, the second video, but it's just look for the one that's done by the Bearded Beast of Dulux. It's a very informative video on the subject, and it was one of the videos that convinced me to run a full body routine. Now, back to the actual topic. When discussing anything on the internet, whether it be fitness, whether it be politics, whether it be anything else, you can't just go, I'm this, I'm that, and that's the reason that backs your point. You have to have legitimate reasons. You have to use legitimate reasons, and even more so, you have to actually look to see if your opponent has any legitimate points. I mean, frankly, if he would have come up with a legitimate point, I would actually have agreed with him. But the problem is his points were, I'm bigger and stronger than you. He's been training for 20 years, he said in the post. I've been training for a little over a year. Frankly, if he's not bigger and stronger than me, he's doing something very, very wrong. I mean, that should just be a given. So that point is null and void, in my opinion. And another one, and I'm just mentioning this one because I found it to be rather humorous. He mentioned a point, the OP made a comment about how long someone should stick with a program, and he mentioned something about muscle confusion as a reason to change programming. Well, muscle confusion is just a myth. There's no such thing as muscle confusion. And my comment later, I called him out on this, and he went back to us, oh, experience, oh, I'm stronger than you, oh, look at my clients. And my reply was, in my opinion, muscles do not have brains, so it is impossible for them to be confused. Could you please refute my stance? He intentionally avoided the question because he doesn't know an answer, because, well, one, there isn't an answer. He's just wrong on this topic. But he refuses to actually address any of his points and give any other reasons other than, oh, I'm bigger and stronger than you. Oh, here's pics of my clients, and etc., etc. And basically, nothing he said was actually supported by any true evidence, and it was all based on his own anecdotal evidence of training 20 years must mean I know more than anyone else, which experience definitely means something, but you could be, if you're experienced in doing everything wrong, that's what you're going to be doing. And in my opinion, that's probably what he's been doing. And frankly, strength training isn't as complicated as many people think it is. Another topic which about arguing online I don't like is when people put words into their opponent's mouth. And the example I'll use is, he called me out claiming that I was suggesting her that she must do powerlifting routines, and I'd never considered that she might be into bodybuilding, which at no point whatsoever did I ever say this. And I specifically mentioned that full body's not even the only option, that there are upper-lower splits that are good as well as push-pull, and I'm not really a fan of them, but push-pull legs are okay as well. But I never once mentioned this. However, in my opinion, the training between a bodybuilder and a powerlifter, at least those that are natural and not on drugs, is not nearly as need to be different as many people think it does. There are differences, and in my opinion, the difference is basically this. Bodybuilders and powerlifters, their main core training will be based around compound movements, such as presses, rows, squats, deadlifts. The differences being, bodybuilders are not concerned about getting the big three competition lifts up to where powerlifters are. So a bodybuilder might put just as much emphasis on overhead press as bench press, or rows as much as bench press. And he might not put much emphasis in deadlifting at all. In fact, he might just do stiff-legged deadlifts. And the other difference being bodybuilders need more volume and more weak point training for aesthetic reasons opposed to just reasons to help the big three movements like a powerlifter would. But he put some words in my mouth. So basically how I decided to refute his stance there was I used a study by Brad Schoenfeld, which was done on powerlifting versus bodybuilding training to see which style of training produced the most muscle mass. And I'll link the study below. But in short, what happened is both groups produced pretty much the exact same amount of muscle mass, but powerlifters were stronger in the 1 rep max test. So basically that means either of them work for building muscle mass, but powerlifting is superior for out and out strength. Now, this in my opinion supports my stance that basically the big difference is bodybuilders don't put emphasis on just the big three, and they need to do more volume and weak point training for aesthetic goals, where whether they do it on a full body routine or another type or a split program is largely irrelevant. And his comeback for me posting this study by Brad Schoenfeld was he basically laughed at it and scoffed that instead of doing it through my own personal experience, I had to post a research paper saying that this is what happens. And this is basically where I decided this guy was a complete moron. He basically just said that the scientific research doesn't mean anything because my anecdotal evidence says otherwise. And this is just wrong on just about every level. And anyone who does this, I'd recommend not taking advice from them, because the reality is if they're doing this, they don't really understand what science is. And they're probably just ignorant and arrogant about their own ways. And that's exactly how I feel about this individual, is that he's ignorant and he's arrogant. And even with all the facts put in his face, his stance is never going to budge. But to prevent this from being any more of a long, boring ramble video, I'm going to end it here, basically on this note. If you get into a debate online, you should avoid letting emotions come into play, and you need to use actual points and provide evidence to back up your claims. You also should avoid attacking your opponent for personal reasons. You can attack their stance with your own stance, points, and evidence, but don't start going, oh, you don't, something, for example, he said I didn't even look, that if I wasn't doing a squat in my Facebook profile picture, that he wouldn't even know that I lift weights, which really is largely irrelevant because that doesn't even matter. And I just thought this was funny. He didn't really look very muscular in his pictures either. But that doesn't matter. If he was smaller than I, and he provided good evidence and good reason, then I would take his word. But he provided no reason and relied on this, oh, I'm bigger and stronger mentality. And that's basically what I'm getting at. So guys, get on debates online, keep it civil, keep it intelligent, and don't let your emotions make the argument. Actually think about what you're saying before you type it. All right, guys, that's all I got to say. Peace.